And I quote, "Even if Christmas were to be pagan, which it is, it comes from a tradition of man and the worship of another god."
I want to make 2 points in response to this video. The first one is that Christmas is a Christian holiday in origin, not a pagan one. We know, for example, that the date of Jesus' birth being December 25th is a Christian idea that had no influence from paganism, but was actually rather about how we calculate the birth and death of someone. And we know that Christians were also celebrating Christmas by the 4th and 5th centuries, again, in the absence of any sort of pagan influence. Please see the sources that I put on the screen for more information on those topics. Secondly, as I stated in my original video, even if Christmas was pagan, then it is still something that the church could claim and use for Christ. And the reason why I say that is because the people of faith throughout the Old and New Testament have always done this. And so you can think about how the Ark of the Covenant was made using Egyptian ritualistic furniture, how, as I mentioned, as you commented on, the ancient Israelites built a temple and for their god, and so did pagans. You can think about how one of the Psalms seems heavily influenced by the Baal cycle or the Baal cycle, which is a pagan text. And speaking of the Baal cycle, there are a ton of parallels between Leviathan in the biblical text and Yam, who's in the Baal cycle, and Lotan, which is in some other ancient mythologies, and that you can see how those things influence the text. We know that the Proverbs seems to rely in some parts on Egyptian proverbial wisdom, and there is a broader sort of wisdom tradition concept in the ancient areas that the book of Proverbs is very much in. Going in the New Testament, something you didn't mention in your video response to me was Paul's quotation of pagan thinkers who worship Zeus in this pantheistic seeming sense as God. He cites them and then applies his citations to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Paul himself seems to be a Hellenistic Jew, a Jew who was influenced by Greek thought, because he seems very much in the virtue ethical tradition, which was a Greek ethical and philosophical theory at the time, which later Christians end up taking on as Christian virtue ethics. And so there are many parallels in many ways in which the biblical authors they don't always agree, sometimes they agree, sometimes they disagree, but they use this text outside of their own culture in order to make points, tell truth, and so on. And if the biblical authors could do that, and if those ancient cultures could do that, then there is no problem with a kind of syncretism as well, so long as we're, say, not giving up the faith. And I don't think we are. We're really just following in the tradition of our spiritual ancestors by continuing this trend of claiming things for Christ that initially was not for Christ. That said, those are the 2 points I would like to make, keeping the discussion focused on Christmas. If you would like to respond, I would love to see how you would respond to the points that I made. Please see what I put on the screen so that you can go check out the citations I brought up and some of the data on these subjects. Let me know your thoughts and make sure you follow me for more content like this.